Okay, so here we are, chapter 3, length, area, volume. So we're going to be working with measurement. Um, we start off with the idea of perimeter. Perimeter is the path around an object. So perimeter is like a fence. Okay, if you had to put a fence around an object or like your backyard, the fence would be the perimeter. The grass inside would be the area. So don't get those two things confused. You can see here is an irregular object. They're just going to add up all the sides. We'll start off with build your skills number 1. You can use a perimeter formula for a rectangle, 2 lengths and 2 widths, with the length being here and the width being here. So 2 times 18.3 plus 2 times 8.5. And you can do it that way, or you could literally just add up all the sides, and I'll show you that in a second. So with perimeter, the units are just units of length. For the next one, you literally just need to add up all the sides. So just add all sides. And you could have done that with the question above. Just make sure that you don't forget the sides that don't have numbers on them. And because it's a rectangle up there, that those are the same. So I'll just add up all these numbers. And I'm getting 43.6 centimeters. Now with this one, you can see quite clearly that the length of 2.3 is also the length of 2.3 up here. So don't forget to include that number when you add them all up. So again, add all sides. So 0.9 plus 0.9 plus 2.3 plus 2.3 plus 1.2, 7.6 altogether. And again, these units are linear units, one-dimensional length. Okay, so here's some application questions. Tablecloth, lace. So the tablecloth goes on a table. It's probably a circle. Oh no, it's rectangle. Pardon me. So this tells you that it's rectangle. Okay, so what you're going to look for is this word by. It would look like this as well. 210 by 180. Okay? So if you were to draw that in, the longer side's 210, the shorter side 180. And you have to add up all the sides. That's perimeter. Add up all the sides. So 210 plus 210 plus 180 plus 180. $780. Okay. There are formulas on the formula sheet for some shapes, but pretty much if you just know that perimeter is the path around the object, you just literally need to add up all the sides. Gary here has a fence. We're doing number 3 now. So like I said earlier, a fence. The pasture measures 15 by 25. You have to know what this means. Okay, let me insert a rectangle. So the shorter side's 15, the longer side's 25. And he uses 3 rows of barbed wire. So how much wire will he need? So basically you need to take the perimeter times 3. Perimeter times 3. So perimeter times 3, whatever the perimeter is. So let's figure out what the perimeter is. Just add up all the sides, 25 and 25 and 15 and 15. That's 80. So perimeter times 3 is 80 times 3. This is 240, and the unit is meter. Chantal building a fence around her swimming pool. pool is 25 feet long and 12 feet wide. So draw on a rectangle, 25, 25, 12, 12. She wants a 6 feet wide rectangular walkway around the entire pool. Okay, so that's like a frame on a picture, or like a sidewalk on a road. So basically you just need to draw another rectangle on the outside of the pool. That didn't work out very well. Let's try a little bit smaller. So here's the blue is the pool, and the walkway is in the white. Okay, so how much fence do you need? Okay, so the fence would run on the outside of the sidewalk like this. Okay, so you need the perimeter of the outer object. 6 feet wide. So everywhere is 6 feet wide. So basically it's 25 to there with an extra 6 here and 6 here. So it'll be the same down here. 6, 25, 6. Here will be 6, 12, 6, 6, 12, 6. From the added width of the sidewalk. So how many 6s? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, a couple 12s, and a couple 25s. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times 6, 48. This is 24, this is 50. Adding all these up, 48 and 24 and 50. 122 feet perimeter. Okay, so now they're going to introduce the circumference term. Circumference is just perimeter, but of circles. And because of the rounded nature, you can't just like add up sides, so you have to use a formula. Okay, there's two formulas that you're going to use, pi d or 2 pi r. Okay, so again, those formulas are 2 pi r if you know the radius, and pi d if you know the diameter. And when they write variables next to each other like this and numbers, it just means times. You're going to times. So circumference of a fountain, if you know the radius, would be 2 times pi times r, 2 times pi times 5.3. Just use the pi button on your calculator. Don't use 3.14. And then I'll just round it to some easy decimals. There's the first one. Okay, Johnny wants to put Christmas lights along the edge and peak of his roof. So make sure you read the question properly. Edge and peak. So I'll just use my highlighter. Edge and peak of the roof, it said. So you'd put the Christmas lights like that. So this is 5, this is 5, this is 5, this is 5. It's a symmetric roof. This is 28, this is 28, this is 28. So just identify all the side lengths and add them all up. Not too hard there. So 4 5s is 20, 3 28s is 84, so altogether 104, and the unit is meter. Okay, Hershey uses colored wire to make a model of the Olympic symbol, 5 interlocking circles. Okay, so 5 circles. Okay, so try to make the Olympic symbol. Oh, it's too big. Okay, there's the Olympic symbol, 5 interlocking circles. Alright, so each circle has a radius of 35. How much wire? Well, it's just 5 times the circumference of each circle. So 5 times the circumference formula is 2 times pi times r. So 5 times 2, 10 times pi times r, which is 35 centimeters. 10 times pi times 35, and rounding 0.6. The unit is centimeter. Okay, moving along. Okay, now we're going to get into some unit conversions. These are the units for, and they're on your formula sheet. I would always use the formula sheet numbers. Sometimes they're different with this book, but use your formula sheet that I've given you. What they're mentioning here is the metric system. So if you ever see SI, that's basically the metric system. That's what everybody in the world uses for science application. And then many countries still use the imperial system, like for everyday applications, like feet and inch, pound. Many people are familiar with. So yeah, imperial and metric. The international system is metric, and the imperial is just a common system of measurement that originated in the United Kingdom and is only used in the United States as a standard, a system, but still used in many countries. Okay, so that example you can read on your own. Okay, so here we go. Build your skills number 8. Bernard is buying some lumber to finish a project. He needs 3 pieces of 2x4 that are 4.5 feet long, 10 pieces of 2x2 that are 5.25 feet long. How much of each does he need in total? Alright, so let's just highlight some of these words. So 3 pieces of 2x4. 2x4 is just a type of wood, so 3 pieces that are 4.5 feet long. So 3 pieces that are 4.5 feet long. 10 pieces of 2x2, so just a different type of lumber, that's 5.25 feet long. So adding 10 pieces that are each 5.25 feet long. Okay, so anytime you're given mixed fractions like this, I would recommend that you just convert the fraction to the decimal. So type 1 divided by 2 into your calculator, you'll get 0.5. So this is 4.5 feet. And then the other one will be 10 times, just type 1 divided by 4 into your calculator, you get 0.25. So this is 5.25 feet. Multiply these first, order of operations, 13.5 feet plus, this will be 52.5 feet. Add those up. 66, my favorite number, feet. Okay. Okay, Benji here is replacing some pipes. He needs 3 pieces of copper pipe. Okay. How much copper pipe does he need if he loses an inch when he cuts the pipe, and he can only buy in even numbers of feet? Okay, so before we get there, I just want to make a little note about feet and inch. 1 feet, or 1 foot, is equal to 12 inches. It is often written like this: 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. Alright, so you need to know that feet, the unit of feet, can be measured by a tick, or represented by a tick, and inch can be represented by a double tick. And it's just groups of 12, and I'll talk about that probably in a little bit here. But so like 2 feet would be 24 inches, 3 feet would be 36 inches. It's just groups of 12. So if you can add 12, you can do feet and inch. Okay, so Benji here is replacing some plumbing pipes. He needs 3 pieces of copper pipe. One is 2 feet long, one is 5'7", and one is 4 feet long. So that's what he needs. So how much copper pipe does he need if he loses 1 inch when he cuts the pipe? And he can only buy it in even numbers of feet. Well, if you add all this up, 2, 5, and 4, you can only add the feet with the feet, so 2 and 5 and 4 makes 11 feet and 7 inches. Like, it's important to know that you can't just add the 7 inches to the 2, 5, and the 4, because they're different units. You can only add the same units. So basically, the guy needs 11 feet 7 inches of pipe. So, and he loses 3 inches, or he loses 1 inch every cut, and he's gonna have 3 pipes, so he'd probably make 3 cuts. So that's like add 3 inches for those 3 cuts, 11 feet 10 inch, and he can only buy it in even numbers of feet, so he'll probably buy a 12-foot pipe. Buy a 12-foot pipe, make his cuts, and there'll be a little bit left over. Okay, so next one is about fence boards. Each board is 6 inches wide. You can see the 6 double tick there. Okay. So how many fence boards does he need if the playground is 60 feet by 125 feet? So this is important. We've talked about this already. So 60 by 125. Those are the dimensions. That's important to know. The dimensions of a rectangle. Whenever it's written like that, you need to know that it's a rectangle. So 60, 25, 60, 25. So you need the perimeter because you're putting a fence board up. So let's add up all these numbers to get the perimeter. 60, 60, 120, 120 and 50, 170 feet. And you're going to use 6-inch wide boards. Now it's important to note that inch, feet, there's a different unit there, so we got to make a conversion. So let's talk about conversions. So from your formula sheet, you know that 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. That's from the formula sheet. Now we've already taught you in this course how to cross multiply, so we're going to apply that skill right now. What you do is take what you have, okay, you have 6 inches, and you want to convert it to feet. So put the 6 inches on this side, because you can see that the inches line up. Now if the inches line up, what you'll be able to do is make a proportion and solve for feet. That's what we want over there. And of course you cross multiply in these situations. So 1 times 6 divide 12 is the cross multiplication step. And 6 divided by 12 is 0.5 feet. So half a foot. So hopefully that makes sense, that 6 inches is half a foot. Alright, so let's convert this 6 inches to 0.5 feet. So here's your total, this is your total length. You're going to put a whole bunch of boards up like this. Okay, so take a total length and divide it by how much for one board. So it's half a foot per board. So when you divide 170 by a half, you'll see that you'll get an answer of 340 boards. So it's a pretty important skill here. Perimeter is pretty basic, but some feet-inch conversions, it's I mean, it's also pretty basic, but you know, this is a real application problem. You know, you're building a fence, how many boards are you going to need? You don't want to spend more money, right? You don't want to waste money. You don't want to have to make multiple trips to the store because you didn't buy enough. You don't want to buy too much. So yeah, important skills for life here. Okay, so now this is like a floor plan here, and there's a whole bunch of feet-inch application here going on. Yeah, so I think we'll have to do a question in order to understand this. Okay, so pet shop store, there's 5 pet cages that are 2 feet 8 inches wide. So I take out my highlighter here. 5 that are this much, 3 that are that much, and 2 that are that much. Alright, so 2 feet 8 inches, and we have to times that by 5. And remember, you can only times, or you have to do these things separately, so because they're different units. So 2 times 5, 10 feet, and 8 times 5, 40 inch. Now the 3 cages that are 4 foot 6, so 4 foot 6 inch, we got to times by 3. Okay, so 3 times 4 is 12 feet, 3 times 6 is 18 inch. And the last one, 2 cages that are 1 foot 8 inch, so times that by 2. So 2 times 1 is 2 feet, 2 times 8 is 16 inch. So then when you add all these up, you can only add the feet with the feet and the inch with the inch. So add up all those feet. 10 and 12 is 22. 22 and 2 is 24 feet. Now we need to add up these inches. So 40 and 18 is 58. 58 and 16 is 74 inches. Now when we express feet inch, this second number, this inch, is never bigger than 12. Okay, because if it was bigger than 12, then it would be a foot. So we have to group 74 into 12. Okay, so imagine 74 divided by 12. Just hit that in your calculator. You get like 6.16 repeater, some really weird number. So just count by 12s. Figure this out. 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72. See how we're close to 74 here? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet for sure in these 74 inches. So we need to add 6 feet to this 24. So 30 feet. And then remember, we only got to 72, and we needed to get to 74. So there's 2 inches left over. Alright, so here's your final answer, 30 feet 2 inches. It says, can these cages fit side by side along a wall that is 30 feet long? No, there's 2 inches too much. So number 11 is probably the most important question in this section. If you can add feet and inches separately and then regroup inches into feet, then you'll be okay in this section. Okay, next one is about a circular garden. So just jot in a circle, and the diameter is 6 feet 4 inches. That's this. That's the length across, 6 feet 4 inch. and they want to plant a geranium, which is just a plant, every foot along the circumference. So that's like this. Every foot along the circumference, they want to put a plant. So how many plants do you need? So what you need is the total length, which is the circumference. They gave you diameter, so just use pi times diameter. And again, you're going to need to put this into one singular unit. So 6 feet is equal to 6 times 12 inches per foot. Okay? Now, hopefully this makes sense. In every foot, there's 12 inches. So in 2 feet, there's 24 inches. In 3 feet, and so on. So you just, anytime you have feet and you want inches, just times by 12. So the 6 feet is equal to 72 inches. Don't forget about those 4 inches there. So add on 4 inches. So the diameter is 76 inches. So here it's 238.76 inches. They want to put a plant every foot, so divide by 12 inches. Divide by 12 inches per plant. So dividing by 12, and I got like 19.89. So pretty much you can get 20 plants on this circle. Okay, one more here to go before the homework. So the height of a basement ceiling is 7 foot 2 inch. A 6-inch deep heating pipe runs across the middle. To enclose it, there must be a 1-inch space between the pipe and the drywall. Will Craig, who's 6 foot 6 inches tall, be able to walk under the finished pipe? So this is a pretty wordy question, but if you read it again, you might see that it's just, you know, a room. So if you draw in what looks like a room, you can see that here you'd have the height of the room, which is 7 feet 2 inch. And it says that there's a 6-inch deep heating pipe running across the middle. So let's draw that in. So there's the pipe running across. And it is 6 inches deep. And to enclose it, there must be a 1-inch space between the pipe and the drywall. So basically just add another inch to that. So it's a 7-inch drop from the ceiling. So Craig, who's 6 feet 6, will he be able to walk in this room without hitting his head? So 7 foot 2 inches, and you need to subtract 7 inches because of this pipe. So what I would do is I would convert those feet into inches. So 7 times 12, for every foot there's 12 inches. 7 times 12 is 84 inches. Don't forget those 2 as well. Altogether that is 86 inches, and we need to subtract off 7 inches. 86 take away 7, of course, 79 inches. Converting that back into feet and inches, you need to group into groups of 12. Alright, so 79 divided by 12 is for sure 6 groups, because I got from the calculator 6.583 feet. Now what you need to do is figure out how much this decimal is in inches. Okay, so remember, groups of 12. 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72. That's the sixth group. That's the sixth group. That's this number here. Okay, but what about all these decimals? So how much is left over? In other words, the division and the remainder from 79. So 79 take away 72 is 7 inches. Okay. So how much space? It says that this will be the height of the room with the pipe overhead. So a man who is 6'6" will just reach. So he'll have an inch of a gap there. So that's okay. Okay, so if you could start your practice, that would be great. Do this homework and get help if you need it. Thanks.